Welcome to Economic Deep Dive, the place where complex financial events are broken down into simple, powerful stories that actually make sense. Today, we're re-looking at one of the most controversial and least understood strategies unfolding right now in the global economy. A strategy that many economists whisper about but rarely explain clearly to the public. A strategy that might reshape how debt, currency, and global power work in the modern world. In this video, we explore the idea of how the United States could be using crypto, gold, and global financial restructuring to quietly manage or offset its massive $37 trillion debt without most people even noticing. As the world's largest economy, the U.S. sits at the center of the global financial system. Every movement it makes, whether visible or invisible, has ripple effects across markets, currencies, and nations. The national debt has grown at historic levels, raising concerns about long-term sustainability. But instead of collapsing or losing global influence, the U.S. appears to be adapting through a combination of innovation, strategic partnerships, and silent shifts in financial structure. This is not a conspiracy. It's an analysis of trends, policies, and real-world actions taken by governments and central banks. To understand what's happening, first, you need to step into the world of money itself. Money is not simply paper or metal. It is confidence, belief, and system engineering. When a country controls the world's reserve currency, as the U.S. does with the dollar, it also controls the flow of global trade, global banking, and global settlement. Debt becomes less dangerous when the world depends on the currency you print. But even that advantage has limits. So instead of relying only on traditional monetary tools, the U.S. has been quietly exploring alternatives, using gold, digital assets, and blockchain systems to increase liquidity, reduce risk, and strengthen its financial position. Well, let's begin with gold. Over the past decade, central banks around the world have been buying record amounts of gold. But the part most people don't see is how this accumulation shifts global power. Gold is not just a shiny metal. It is a hedge against currency devaluation, inflation, and systemic risk. When governments buy gold, they are preparing for volatility. And when the U.S. increases its reserves or uses gold-linked financial products, it creates a foundation of real, measurable value. Gold stabilizes long-term debt because it increases confidence in the system behind that debt. When investors believe a government has strong reserves, they lend more cheaply, and the cost of debt drops. Now let's turn to crypto assets. Over the last several years, cryptocurrencies have moved from being a tech experiment to becoming a core part of global finance. Major institutions, banks, and even governments now use blockchain technology for settlement, transfers, and secure storage of value. The U.S. has been watching this transformation closely. Instead of directly announcing large crypto strategies, it has been integrating digital asset infrastructure into banking regulations, financial systems, and federal guidelines step by step, quietly, consistently, and strategically. When a government uses blockchain-based systems, it reduces friction in the movement of money. It reduces delays, reduces settlement times, and increases transparency and security. This lowers the hidden costs of running a global financial empire. And every reduction in cost, risk, or inefficiency gives the government more room to manage its debt. Digital assets also create new forms of wealth that were not possible 20 years ago. Tokenization of assets, digital treasuries, and blockchain-based bonds almost instantly increase liquidity in ways that traditional financial products cannot. You may be wondering, how does this connect to debt? The answer lies in financial engineering. When you expand the value of your assets, strengthen your reserve backing, modernize your settlement system, and increase global confidence, your debt becomes easier to manage. You can refinance it, restructure it, or reduce its burden through inflation-adjusted growth. If your economy grows even slightly faster because of new technology, your debt-to-GDP ratio improves. This isn't magic, it's strategic leverage. The U.S. also benefits from global demand for the dollar. Every time a country uses dollars in trade, oil purchase, or international payment, the U.S. effectively exports inflation, spreads risk, and gains financial breathing room. Crypto and digital assets may seem separate from this system, but they are increasingly connected. Many stablecoins are backed by U.S. Treasury bonds. This means that global crypto markets indirectly support U.S. debt by buying American financial instruments through stablecoin structures. Billions of dollars flow into these assets, strengthening U.S. liquidity without being counted in traditional metrics. Meanwhile, gold ensures long-term stability. Crypto ensures innovation and liquidity, and the dollar ensures global dominance. Together, they create a tri-layered financial shield around the U.S. economy. This shield doesn't erase debt overnight, but it changes the environment in which debt exists. It makes $37 trillion less dangerous than it sounds because the system evolves to support it. Zoom out and look at the global picture. Countries like China and Russia are moving toward gold-based settlements. Europe is developing digitalized payments. The Middle East is exploring blockchain oil trading. In this shifting landscape, the U.S. cannot rely only on old financial tools. So it modernizes quietly. It uses innovation instead of announcement. It uses influence instead of aggression. It uses adaptation instead of collapse. Crypto gives the U.S. a new way to absorb global liquidity. Gold gives a timeless form of value to anchor the system. And the dollar remains the central pillar that holds everything together. This combined strategy makes debt manageable not through reduction, but through transformation, transforming how value is stored, transferred, and protected. The U.S. understands that the future of finance is hybrid, digital plus physical, crypto plus gold, blockchain plus traditional banking. And by positioning itself early, even if silently, it shapes the rules of the next era of global economic power. As you watch markets move, currencies fluctuate, and new technologies rise, remember that the world of finance is not chaotic, it's strategic. Every shift has a purpose. Every innovation has a role, and every giant economy has a long-term plan for survival. By the end of this deep dive, you should have a clearer view of how global powers use both ancient and futuristic tools to manage the pressures of massive debt, and why the United States, despite its debt reaching nearly unthinkable heights, still remains at the center of global finance. The story is not about hiding the debt. It's about engineering a system where the debt becomes sustainable, flexible, and less dangerous. Stay until the end, because the deeper you go into this story, the more the pieces connect. The world of money is changing fast, and understanding it gives you an advantage in a world that's becoming more complex every day. This is Economic Deep Dive, and this is the story behind the story.